Hello again, everybody. Great to have you along as we continue on with this edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. My name is Scott Murray, and I'm alongside
Marjorie Herrera-Lewis
and Marnie Schneider.
And tell us a little something about who you are and where you came from and what your history might be.
Well, okay. I came from Santa Fe, New Mexico. That's where I was
I
born and
love it.
raised.
It's a great city.
But I've been in Dallas for so long, I can't even remember. And Scott, you and I met many years ago when I was a Dallas Cowboys beat writer.
I remember that well. I think it was back in the mid-'80s, to be honest with you. We were both a couple of kids, but I tell you what, you were the only female. You really kind of set the tone, set the way for women being involved in sports. And now you see women in the booth, you see them on the sidelines, you see them everywhere, and they do a great job.
Yeah,
long overdue, but you were the one that Tom Landry looked upon as, this young lady, she works hard, and she's very, he thought you were very credible and had great integrity. So
we had a great working relationship. He was terrific.
Yeah,
and
he
made covering the Cowboys a lot easier for the first woman to be doing this.
And very quickly, tell us about the book that you wrote.
Well, I wrote a book. It's a novel, but it's based on a true story of a woman by the name of Tylene Wilson. Mm-hmm. She coached football in Brownwood, Texas during World War II.
Yep.
She's getting her recognition now. She's actually made it into a museum.
That's fantastic. And of course, Margie and I, for decades covering the Cowboys, well, this young lady was the opposing team, as they say, but for good reason, because her grandfather was the owner of a team called the Philadelphia Eagles. Hello, Marnie. How are you? Give us your history.
Thank you.
Briefly.
So, yes, my grandfather, Leonard Toes, owned the Philadelphia Eagles, and my mom, Susan Toes Spencer, ran the team for my grandfather. And my mom, to this day, is still the only female that's ever held the position of general manager of a professional football team. So I'm super proud of my mom's accomplishments. And
tell us about your books, too.
Well, thank you. Yes, I like Marjorie. I am also an author. I'm writing a series of books called Football Freddy and Fumble the Dog, Game Day in the USA, based loosely on my life growing up in professional football and traveling around to all these great football cities.
Fantastic. And it's a great book. And it's a great series of books. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Scott Murray. For 30 years, I was the very fortunate and honored to be a multi-EMMY Award-winning sports anchor and was the sports director at the NBC station in Dallas-Fort Worth and got to cover the Dallas Cowboys for decades. And so now I've moved into the production world. When my son graduated from Baylor University, we started a television production company entitled Murray Media World. And that's one of the reasons we're here together in our studios today, too, as well. Yes.
We landed right here.
Yes, indeed. So the name of the program is called Journey Through Sports and Life. And when we come back, yet another gentleman that you certainly will know, yet a Dallas Cowboy. How about that? When we return on this edition of Journey Through Sports and Life. Well, welcome back once again to Journey Through Sports and Life. And our special guest today is a former Dallas Cowboy running back, was a fullback, did a lot of good things for the Cowboys, and now is very involved with major philanthropic endeavors here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So one of the good guys here in the great state of Texas, Timmy Newsome, is our special guest. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well, and how are you?
Good. Marjorie? Marnie?
Hello?
Yes.
And I've got a little bio here. So stand by.
Okay.
It's just the way you wrote it, so I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
Timmy Newsome, yes, indeed, attended Winston-Salem State University on a football scholarship, and he would be inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. How about that? Yes, indeed. Well deserved.
And just recently inducted into the North Carolina Sports
That's
Hall of Fame.
right.
Yes,
yeah, that was announced.
Well, that was a little lower in my notes here, but we're going to get
I just thought I'd just get that
I'll
out.
get that out of there right now. It's
yeah,
gone.
That's great.
And from there on, it was to the pros, the NFL, selected by the Dallas Cowboys in the 6th round of the 1980 NFL Draft. That's right. We're talking over 40 decades ago.
Wow.
40? No, I just wanted to see if you catch me in that. 4 decades ago.
I can't
40
remember
years.
that far back.
40 years, 4 decades. You got it. And as I said, he was both a running back and a fullback, playing alongside people like Hall of Famer Tony Dorsett. In 1986, he teamed with Dorsett and Herschel Walker, Heisman Trophy winner exactly 40 years ago this year, to form Tom Landry's latest offensive innovation, the full house backfield.
Right.
You'll have to tell us about that.
Yes.
You remember that, right, Marjorie?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. He also served as the 3rd tight end, finishing with 48 receptions, 3rd on the team that year. So very impressive. In 1990, he was selected to the Dallas Cowboys All-Decade Team, and in the during the 1980s. And since retirement, Timmy is focused on the company he created and is now the owner of New Tech Business Solutions. His firm provides information technology solutions. So, yes, indeed, smart guy here, folks. His firm is a managed services provider specializing in uniformed communications and collaboration. Is that right?
That's right.
Products, right? Is that
Yep.
right? Okay, very good. And during the decade of the 1980s, he was number 30 on your roster, right?
That's right.
Timmy Newsome from the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you,
Good.
sir.
Good. Well, it's great to have you here. Tell us about this company before we get into talking about you and your great history in the world of sports.
Well, I've been in it 30 years. In fact, I'm celebrating 30 years this year.
Unbelievable.
In the
Yeah,
technology sector.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. Today, we specialize in what's called voice over IP telephone systems and software. So that's what we do.
And you still do, like we've mentioned with a previous guest, Drew Pearson, you do a lot of charity work.
Yes. I
Why?
do.
Where'd that come from?
I guess my parents. I saw my parents do a lot of it growing up, and it's something that I've always saw in them, and I just decided to continue their legacy in some way.
Well, one of the good guys, and you
That's
continue to do that.
wonderful.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to step aside, let the young ladies, the M&M twins
Oh,
here,
The M&M twins.
Yes.
Marnie and Marjorie,
All right.
open things up. And of course, I'm the Murray, so I
Okay.
can kind of get in
There
there.
are a lot
with
of
them.
M's
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
here.
that's right.
It's a trifecta of M's,
That's right.
Okay? All right. Take it away, Margie.
Well, Timmy, I just love stories of how people got started. What did you do before you were famous? So tell us a little bit about what brought you to football, what other sports you played, and how was that growing up and developing as an athlete when you were just a kid?
Well, my father played football in college, and
Where did he play?
he played at St. Paul's College
Oh, okay.
in Virginia.
Uh-huh.
And so I would work a lot with him on his farm. He was a farmer and an automobile mechanic. We had a service station. And so we spent a lot of time talking about sports and how he used to be a 60 Minutes man. I said, Dad, what's a 60-minute man? He said, it's a football player that never leaves the field. You play offense, defense, and special teams.
Wow.
And so that was somewhat of an impetus for me as a young boy to kind of emulate that. And I have two older brothers who also played sports. And for me, I played baseball, football, and basketball in high school. So that was kind of my start into sports in general. And then football was the sport that I decided to just stick with.
Was it because you were better at football, or was your favorite sport?
It was because it's something my father loved.
Oh.
Baseball was my favorite sport.
Oh, okay.
And football, it took a while to grow on me.
So tell us then a little bit about your father-son relationship with football.
Well, because I spent so much time with him, we would talk about football a lot. It's the one sport that he saw a lot of. We would go watch my brothers play football a lot in high school.
And was he teaching you what was going on?
It's not so much teaching, just watching.
Mm-hmm.
He loved watching it. Now, he would talk about it on occasion, but most of it was just to watch. And then I had some first cousins that played football as well in the early 1960s. One ended up going to Duke, playing football for Duke University. And I had a first cousin who went to University of Indiana to play basketball. So within the environment where I grew up, there was a lot of sports being played.
A lot of talent,
Oh,
too.
yeah. Yes. Yes,
a lot
definitely.
of talent.
Yes.
Go ahead, Marnie. Any questions for Timmy?
Well, yes,
Get
absolutely.
real close to that mic, too.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I need to
There
do
you go.
that,
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously your dad was a great role model for you.
Yes.
And when did you realize that you thought, okay, this is something that I actually might be able to do as a career or go to college with it? Or what was the transition from being on the field and then saying, this is something that I want to keep doing and get better at?
Well, for me, when I finished my football career in high school, I thought maybe there was a slight chance that I would probably go and play baseball. But my baseball coach thought better of it and said, no, we want you to play football. And I think that's more ideally suited for what your career path should be. And so
Can I jump in there? Why is that? That's amazing to me that your baseball coach would want you to play another sport.
Did he coach both sports?
Yeah.
well, yes, he did.
Oh,
Actually.
did?
he
Yeah.
coached them both.
He was an athletics
Okay,
director.
I
He
see,
was a head
okay.
baseball coach, and he was an offensive line coach in football.
What did he see in you that he thought that you would be better served playing football than baseball?
Probably because I didn't hit the ball very well in baseball.
Okay.
End
of conversation.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
go
was
ahead.
not that great of a batter.
Well, go ahead and pick
Yeah.
up on what Marnie
Right.
asked you. You answered the question.
Right. So he said, I think I can get you a football scholarship a lot quicker than I can a baseball scholarship. And so I agreed to follow his direction, and they packaged me with another offensive lineman that everybody wanted. And so when I went up to Winston-Salem State University with that offensive lineman, Coach Bill Hayes offered Milton Smith a scholarship. And Milton Smith looked at me and said, "Would you like to come here?" And I said, "Sure."
Oh.
And so we became a package deal. And so that's kind of how that transpired.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that really, obviously, having a great teammate, both on and off the field, who really looks out for you, those are things that are certainly unique, probably in this day and age, for sure.
Right.
But having somebody who really said, all right, I think this is going to be a great fit for both of us, that really shows a lot of discipline and courage.
I think so. We were a very talented group of football players during that period. We had reached the state finals my junior year, and he was also the field goal kicker on the football team. And my junior year, he helped us win a football game with his foot, more so than anything else.
An offensive lineman who was also the field goal kicker.
He was a field goal kicker.
Interesting combination.
In fact, he kicked a 45-yard field goal.
In high school?
In high school.
Nice.
So he was very talented. Unfortunately, he decided not to go to college, and I was at Winston-Salem State by myself.
Oh, wow.
He just decided to stay in and around the Ahoskie area, and of course, I ended up staying at Winston-Salem State.
So how did you develop your work ethic? How did you go from starting the sport in 9th grade, I guess, to within a short time of being exposed to actually the playing field, going to play college?
Yeah. My father was a farmer, and I didn't like farming. But it was something that was thrust on me because it was a way to make a living. And so if I was going to do it, I better be good at doing it and fake it really well.
Or you'd be working on a farm.
That's exactly right. And so
hilarious.
there were so many days that I didn't want to do it, that I had to do it because it was what was required of me. And so I just got real good at something that I didn't enjoy. And football was another one of those things that I really didn't enjoy a great deal, but it was in my best interest to do it, and it kept me out of trouble.
Wow. So you didn't. How long did it take you to start to enjoy football?
It wasn't until my sophomore year in college that I really enjoyed it.
So you had already accepted and started playing college football and not really
enjoying it. No. The only reason I played football in college in the first place is that I needed the money and a scholarship. There were 5 of us in college at one time. I had 6 brothers and sisters, 5 other brothers and sisters.
At the same time?
At the same time.
Wow.
There were 4 of us that went at a college at the same time.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
And so I didn't want to burden my parents with the cost of having to pay for an education.
Well, I'd love
Aren't
to
you a
hear
good
about
guy?
what it was that...
I tell you what, hold that thought.
Okay.
Because we've got to take a break here. Got to keep everybody on time.
Okay.
Journey Through Sports and Life is the name of the program. Timmy Newsome, former Dallas Cowboys great, running back extraordinaire. He's our guest. We're back with more right after this. Welcome back to Journey Through Sports and Life. Timmy Newsome, former Dallas Cowboys great, our special guest. I'm Scott. This
I'm
is
Marjorie.
Marjorie and...
Marnie.
Okay, Marnie and Marjorie, you are about to ask a question. Go for it.
Yes, I just want to know what happened sophomore year that changed the way you approached football in terms of enjoying it or starting to love the game. What happened?
Well, towards the end of my freshman year, I tore my left knee. I had a medial collateral ligament tear, and it put me out of action for a period of time. And it gave me time to really reflect and think about what I wanted to do with my life. It was the first time in my memory that I didn't have anything to do athletically.
Wow.
And so I spent the vast majority of my time later that fall through Christmas and in the early spring contemplating what I wanted. And so I went back for my sophomore year and decided to make a go of it, because now here I am with a kind of a bum knee, and just to see if I could survive it. And I did. And so we were playing North Carolina Central University. It was a very hot day, and we had a radio timeout, and I was kind of just perusing the crowd. And my father, he never liked sitting in the stands. He always liked standing up, and he was always leaning on the fence. So he has a coat and a towel and a fedora hat. And I'm looking at him. And for a moment, I said to myself, this is really not about me. It's about him. And so the timeout is over. They give me the ball. I rush 68 yards and scored a touchdown.
On the very next play?
On the very next play.
Wow.
And at that moment, I fell in love with the sport.
Wow.
Just like
That's a
that.
Great story.
It is.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps.
Yeah, me too.
I did too, Marnie. I
It's
just,
really
oh my gosh, I got
beautiful.
chills when I heard that.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the relationship with your dad?
It was a very good relationship. He constantly talked about the same things 100 times. And after 10 times, I probably don't listen very intently. But I was going into my senior year. And he said, you know, if you have an opportunity to play college football, don't blow it. He said, you know, when I was your age, I didn't really have a chance to go to that next level beyond college. He said, so if you get that chance, don't blow it. And so I listened. And then when I got to college, I understood why it was so hard and difficult, because there's academics, there's athletics, and there's a huge time commitment. And so I would always remember the conversations that we would have about sports and how I should approach it. And if I'm going to do it well. And so that was kind of the driving force for me continuing on and being a better football player.
What did your dad do? What was his occupation?
Well, his vocation was an automobile mechanic, but he also ran a farm.
How did he have time for both? That takes a lot of commitment.
Well, he had help on as a mechanic, and then he had 5, 6 of us who helped him on the farm.
And that was why you said football's better than the farm.
Exactly.
Yeah, football.
Yeah.
So we would work all day on the farm, and then I would go practice at night. We could only practice once a day because in that community, a lot of people had farms. And so he would get us started in the morning, and then he would leave and go work as a mechanic during the day, and he'd come back, and we'd horse around, and said, okay, we better get serious because he's going to want to see the progress.
Right.
So around noon, we decided to get to work and get stuff done. And so we did that throughout my childhood.
Wow. Did any of your siblings like it?
We never really discussed it, but I know I didn't.
Yeah.
How about your mom? I'm most impressed with your father and what he was as a man, as a dad.
My mother was a school teacher. She taught history, and she also was a guidance counselor. But the unique thing about her is that she attended law school in the early 1940s at Howard University.
Really?
And she stayed there for 2 years. And then she met my father, decided not to practice law, moved to Hosky, North Carolina, became a teacher. And subsequently, she stayed involved in community activities and public service things. And she became chairman of her board of trustees at her alma mater, Shaw University.
Really? That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really incredible.
Yeah.
So she was incredibly busy as a mother, but very astute, well-educated in terms of helping not only us, but people in the community.
Did she play a role in your growth as an athlete?
Only passively. So I went to an all-white school at an early age, and they didn't teach me Black history, but when I would come home, she would teach me Black history. And the person that she told me a lot about was Paul Robeson. He was kind of a Renaissance man, went to Rutgers University, played football, was an actor, a Shakespearean actor, no doubt, and a lawyer. And so she would teach me about his life. And so from that standpoint, that's how she provided instruction.
Get some pretty good genes working for you. I wondered where that all came from.
Oh,
so
yes.
that all makes sense.
And as far as the practicing, you know, my mom went to law school and she she said she never practiced because she got it perfect. She's like, all lawyers do is practice. I got it perfect. I'm not doing, you know.
That's hilarious.
Good point. Yeah.
So, you know, who needs to practice?
That's right.
But it's definitely, but your mom sounds like an amazing role model and leader.
Yes.
My mom was a teacher also. I think that, you know, prior to working with my grandfather, she was a teacher. And that was really where my love of reading and writing, you know, happened, because my mom really encouraged me to read and write. And as you know, when you can read and you can write, really, truly, so many doors open up just from all of that alone.
Yeah. I mean, she bought me a volume of the World Book Encyclopedia because I would always ask millions of questions. And she said, look, I'm going to get you some books that you can read for yourself. And every time you ask me a question, you pick a letter and just go answer your own question.
Oh, I love that.
So that's how
great.
she would assist me in learning new things. So,
Are your parents still living?
No, they died 12 years ago.
Okay.
So Timmy, when I was covering the team, you were on the team. So
Right.
we've known each other for many years.
Yes.
I know that you had originally thought about becoming a coach. Tell us the story about how you decided to change your major and what happened when you were in school.
Yes. So I was a freshman, and my idea was to become a coach at either the high school or college level. But we were practicing 3 times a day, and it was hot. And I just decided that maybe this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I don't think I'm going to play football very long because it's just not conducive to my way of thinking. And so I'm in the registration line, and there was a guy in front of me. Didn't know him at all. We had just met. And I asked him what he was majoring in. So he said, I'm going to major in business administration and minor in computer science. And he said, well, what are you going to major in? I said, well, I was going to major in health and physical education, but I don't think I'm going to do that anymore because I'm not going to be a coach. And I said, that's intriguing. So tell me more about, what you're doing. And so he told me. So by the time I got to the registrar's desk, I changed my major.
Yeah. I love that.
Just like that.
That's awesome.
Yes. So, and that's how I ended up being in the computer field and loved it. There were about 150 of us to start my freshman year. And at the end of my senior year, there were only about 15 of us left.
Really?
Yeah. It was a very rigorous and difficult program.
Was that guy still in the program?
Yes. He graduated.
He was one of the
graduated
15?
with me.
Mm-hmm.
He did not go into the computer field. He ended up going to Duke University School of Divinity and becoming a minister.
Oh, wow.
You're kidding.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's what he does now. He has a church in North Carolina.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to hear more also about your experience at Winston-Salem State. How long did it take you to get on the field? What were some of the challenges becoming a college athlete?
Athletically, the field, the conditions were very poor. We didn't have weights. We didn't have a locker room. The field was substandard. The equipment was substandard.
Was that just lack of finances on behalf of the university?
A lack of finances and apathy.
Really?
The culture. It was not. It was not something that people just valued as
important.
Mm-hmm. But what they did very well was to provide a good academic foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that standpoint, we, or at least I, decided to focus on the things that we did well and kind of minimize the things that we didn't do too well about. So I'm on like 4th on the depth chart my freshman year. And then one afternoon, we lost 3 running backs to injury.
In one afternoon?
In one afternoon, my freshman year. One to a dislocated elbow, torn knee ligaments, and a dislocated ankle.
And you didn't just decide to hightail it out of there?
I wanted to, because my intentions were not to really play my freshman year, just to kind of sit and learn and not do much. But then I was thrust into the starting role, and so I became a starter and started playing pretty well until I hurt my knee, which ended my season for that 1976 year. And then after that, I rehabbed everything and came back for my sophomore year and began to play pretty well.
The rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
And it's time for yet another break. So, on behalf of the M&M duo here, we will continue with our latest edition of Journey Through Sports and Life with Timmy Newsome, former Dallas Cowboys running back, right after this.
All right.
As we head down the home stretch, delighted to welcome Timmy Newsome once again. Journey Through Sports and Life, the name of the program. Margie, I'm Scott. Take us home, folks.
All right. Well, Timmy, you were talking a little bit about starting. You worked into the starting lineup your freshman year. You continued a very successful path at Winston-Salem State University.
Right.
Now, what are your thoughts on athletes now that tend to think that they have to go to the SEC or they have to go to a certain league or school in order to make it to the NFL, where you made it to the NFL going to a school that was, it seems, your fondness and was a very good fit for you, and we're missing out on that with the next generation. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, interesting you should bring that up, because the last NFL draft, there was not one player drafted from an HBCU.
Oh.
And I think a lot of it had to do with COVID, because there was no football being played. And so some schools decided to play in the spring, but that was way too late. So the evaluation period was non-existent. So that happened. Deion Sanders has done wonders.
Oh, hasn't he?
For HBCUs. He's got 2 5-star recruits that are going there now.
Right.
And so I think that trend is going to continue. There is a push for a lot of guys to go to HBCUs to become head coaches. Eddie George is at Tennessee State. So I think there's going to be some unique opportunities that will present themselves here in the next few years.
Yeah, that would be great, because it doesn't seem like it's ideal having a handful of schools that everybody's targeting.
Exactly. And I think the culture has changed in a way that we haven't really seen before, because now it's more acceptable.
It's interesting. I also think that just now players have a way, high school players or college players might have a way of showcasing their talent through technology and really having a wider net of being able to reach out to people that they didn't have, 5, 10, 15 years ago. And so that will really be amazing to watch, kids that might have not had a chance to make it, into a professional football team or be recognized. I think now that they will have that opportunity. So that's exciting to watch too. There's a lot of talent out there that might not get acknowledged.
Exactly. And so in addition to the regular NFL sponsored combines, you've got another segment of society where combines are being privately administered.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's popping up all over the United States. So I think over the next few years, you're going to see a real movement in that area where a lot of your Division II, Division III players are going to get special consideration, considering the technology, as you mentioned, and some of the other avenues that will present themselves.
Now, I know Scott has a lot of questions for you regarding your years with the Cowboys, but I want to start off with one real quickly.
That boring side of my life.
Yeah. What was the transition like for you, coming from a smaller school and then all of a sudden now you're with the Dallas Cowboys?
The only thing I had to overcome was the star-studded nature of what I was coming into. I mean, I remember walking into the practice facility and seeing Tony Dorsett complaining about how hot it was.
Oh.
And watching Drew Pearson and so I had to really get down to earth and say, look, this is a business. I'm here to earn a spot on the roster. Forget about all of the star quality type atmosphere things and just focus on the mission of trying to make the team. But getting over that is the hardest part. And I think that's what gets a lot of players. They never lose sight of that star stuff.
Yeah. That was probably kind of especially tough, because at any NFL team, but there's a little something, no offense.
There is.
But there is a little something about the star on the helmet.
No question about it. No question about it. And then you get there and all of a sudden, this is hard. Coach Landry has a really tough camp. There's a lot of physicality to his camps. And so you realize very soon that this is a business and you got to buckle your chin strap and get after it.
What was the number one thing you learned from Coach Landry?
Structure. He was a very structured person in terms of how he ran his camp. Give you an example. Whether you wanted to eat breakfast or not, he made you get up and walk to that dining hall and tell the person who is taking that attendance that you were there. Now you can turn right around and go back to sleep, but he forced you to go to every single meal, whether you wanted to eat or not.
Wow.
Interesting.
Now, I can't imagine anyone not wanting to eat. You know, the
Well,
2 days
well,
and all
maybe-
of it.
maybe
You're
they want-
surprised.
yeah.
I mean, you know, the
They want to
practices-
sleep in.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, so when you're in training camp, it's early rise. You generally in the training room by 6 a.m. and you have to get taped. Then there's practicing for 2 hours, and then you've got the lunch, and then there's that afternoon practice, and then you have another couple hours there, and then you have meetings until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Mhm.
Curfew's at 11. So it's a very challenging time.
And you remember what Thousand Oaks, California was
Oh,
like.
I remember.
It was
that.
really nice, but they were working.
Yeah.
Yes,
It was
yes.
hard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were well, the only day off we had was Sunday.
Mhm.
But by NFLPA rules, we should have had a midweek day off. But Coach Landry said that's not going to happen as long as I'm the head coach. So we
Okay.
were working
It was a
all the
different
time.
world then.
So
Oh,
do-
yes.
So then do you think that, I mean, that mentality of, I mean, Coach Vermeil, I know, was known to have incredibly difficult training camp, but I mean, how much of a, so Coach Landry, his training camp, very difficult.
Mhm.
So obviously then the performance on the field is connected to that, or, I mean, how does that translate? Do you think that that was really why you guys always were doing so well on
There
the
was
field?
a direct correlation between how we approached training camp and what we did during the regular season. And he would talk about that a lot. So that preparation in Thousand Oaks, California was key to how we performed once the season started.
You talk about all the things that you've shared with us here. 3 things that come to mind that if you were to share as a coach or as a mentor to the younger set that would like to be a Timmy Newsome someday and play well in college and then go on and be a member of the pro football, you know, the whole scenario in the NFL. How about it? What 3 things would you share with these people?
Well, the first thing that always comes to mind is enjoying the journey. You have to enjoy the journey. The destination is great, but if you don't relish the journey, getting there, it's not going to work for you. The other thing is the preparation in the things that you're trying to accomplish and be good at. How you approach the weight room, what you do outside of the sport when nobody's watching. That's the key. You know, it's easy for me to go run a mile and people are looking at me running a mile, but can I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and run that mile as though 100,000 people were watching me? That's the key. And then managing the environment outside of the sport. It's very daunting. I can't imagine how these kids today deal with social media and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to figure out how to manage those things is also a part of being successful in that endeavor.
I have to ask you. Okay, so when I was covering the team, I saw you. You were very versatile. You blocked, you ran the ball, you caught passes. Can you remember that moment when the 3 of you were on the field, the full house? Do you remember the reaction, the moment? What was going through your mind?
Well, it's funny. Preceding that Monday night game, because we were playing the Giants.
And to clarify for our listeners, so the full house would be Timmy in the backfield with Dorsett and Herschel Walker.
And Herschel
So
Walker,
it
right.
was powerful, and it was like a bolt of lightning.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, all of the talk preceding that moment was how are they going to use all 3 of these guys at the same time, which was kind of a compliment to me because they weren't ready to toss me out.
No, no.
Although eventually they did, and they brought me back, but it's another story. But so when we practiced all of these things, I remember going to a high school football game, and I was just watching the game, and nobody knew who I was. I always wear a hat and glasses, that sort of thing. And so these 2 guys were talking about the Cowboys in Monday night and, you know, how it was going to happen with the 3 of them in the backfield. And one guy said, well, they need to do a full house. And I just started laughing. I said, gosh, this guy's very knowledgeable, because we were practicing that all week. And so when we got into the actual game, we started out on a full house, and then Herschel goes in motion and becomes a wing. And that worked well because we came out of the blocks 6-2.
Yes, the first half.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we play the Giants again.
Yeah.
And then Danny gets hurt, Herschel gets hurt, and Dorsett gets hurt. And it never stuck after that because now we had to try to figure out how to make something happen. Danny's lost for the season. Herschel is limping for the next few games, and Dorsett missed the game because of his injury.
And the team goes 1-7.
And that's exactly right. And we just completely go the opposite direction, and we never recovered from it.
But that moment was electrifying.
It really was. It was a special time. And, you know, I think if we could have kept that kind of continuity, we would have really had a tremendous year because we had such talent on that football team. And to be able to kind of do that in a way that produced a lot of points was simply magical.
What do you think of today's team? Certainly tough times, what they had to endure and how it ended up in the playoffs. But,
you know, it's mistakes. They're their own worst enemy. They have been all year. 14 penalties in a playoff game is unheard of, unprecedented. And so they've got to find a way to address that part of the organizational structure as a whole. Is how do you eliminate those kind of errors in such critical moments? And that's been their biggest problem.
Yeah, no, understandable. We've got time for maybe one more question, and I've saved this to the last from the three of us. Legacy. Timmy Newsome, number 30. We talked about here you are with Dorsett, here you are with Herschel Walker, all the things that you had a chance to do and be a part of. And I just wondered what you want your legacy to be on the field, but off the field as well, all that you continue to be a part of in this community. And thank you again for all you do.
Well, I think the legacy piece athletically has been cemented by the Hall of Fames that I've been able to be fortunate enough to be a part of, the Black College Football Hall of Fame and now the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. But what professional sports has really given me is a platform to give back. And I think that's the most gratifying part of it all. When I go and make a speech and people respect what I did as a player, but more importantly, I'm able to be a spokesperson for the organizations which I served. I just became president of an organization called NAMI, it's the National Association on Mental Illness, and I'm looking forward to serving in that capacity. So I would not have been able to do those things without professional football, and that's pretty clear. And so that's kind of my legacy, and I'm going to continue to do those things and be a part of that as long as I can.
Well, you continue to do it well, and I've known you since you came here, and it's, you know, we came the same year.
Yes, we did.
And really, congratulations for all you continue to do.
Great.
You continue to build on your legacy, and for that, the community's that much better. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Certainly enjoyed it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I don't know how you have time for everything
Yeah.
you do because you're awfully busy.
He is.
Competitive tennis player.
Well, I enjoy
run
everything
the
I do.
marathons.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to tell our audience he had to stick around for some other things that we were doing during the course of the day. So he had to wait as well. So thanks for your patience as well.
Patience is a virtue.
You
That's
got it.
right.
Yes.
Gives you an idea why we are so excited to have Timmy Newsome here, a man that makes a difference in the lives of a lot of folks that need it most. So we continue on, and we'll be back with our final segment right after this, so don't go away. Time to head down the home stretch now. Journey through sports and life. Scott, Marjorie, Marnie, and Timmy Newsome. You've been great so far. You want to take us home, Marge?
Well, Timmy, okay, so you've been, you studied business and computer science.
Yes.
Then you go into football.
Right.
And we've talked a lot about the football career. But now, how have you used your major and what have you been doing?
Well, actually, Gil Brandt who's the pro personnel director in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, was very instrumental in having me work in the off season. So I finished my rookie year, and he called me into his office and said, well, what would you like to do? And I told him what I majored in college. And he said, well, let me see what I can do to help you. And so he found this firm that sells computer software to financial institutions. And the only other challenge was how long could I work during the off season and not have it drastically interfere with my off season program. And so we agreed that I would work from 8 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. And at 3 in the afternoon, I'd drive to the Forest Lane facility and work out.
No wonder you do so much all the time. You've
Yeah,
already
I'm
learned how to
always
balance
busy.
your time.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so it worked out really well. And I did that my whole career. And in addition, I would always win these belt buckles because it was just Bob Ward and me at the facility that late in the afternoon. So, I was kind of like his prized pupil,
Yeah.
which was good.
Mhm.
And so, but I truly enjoyed that combination of getting away from the sport and getting out in the community and learning something that I knew I was going to be doing for a long period of time.
Mhm.
And so once I finished that and finished my career, I started a business in 1991 and I've been doing it now 30 years.
Wow. And what's the name of the business?
It's New Tech Business Solutions.
How do people go to it? You got a website?
It's www.nbsusa.net.
NBS.
NBSUSA.net.
Fantastic. Timmy Newsome, rock star, on the field and off. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you, sir.
Great to have you here.
All right.
So
Enjoyed
until
it.
next time,
Yeah, great.
for Journey Through Sports and Life, I'm Scott Murray,
Marjorie Herrera-Lewis.
Marnie Schneider.
and this trifecta says, till next time, stay safe, stay well. Thanks, everybody.